Epilogue. The Wings of Change. 10 winters passed. The prosperity of the 1920s transitioned into harder times, and Evergreen Hollow withstood the changes better than most communities. The school's reputation for excellence continued to attract students, despite a significant number facing financial hardships. Edward surprised everyone by establishing scholarships influenced by Margaret's persistence. He also supplied wood at cost to keep the school operating. The Depression changed the nature of Nathan's work, though not its soul. While grand commissions were fewer, folks set aside money for smaller pieces that would last: a child's first bed, a household table, a treasured keepsake. They paid in installments or bartered goods and services. Mrs. Kelly kept her chickens fed with eggs, traded for Peter's first commission, a sturdy egg-gathering basket. Mrs. Atherton offered sleeping quarters to students in exchange for furniture repair. Margaret successfully positioned herself between two worlds. She and Edward maintained their Chicago residence, though she spent considerable time in Evergreen Hollow. Her friendship with Andrew Bennett mellowed into a heartfelt respect, serving them effectively while managing the school's legal and business affairs. Andrew continued to devote his legal expertise to the village's future, his bachelor status a choice that surprised no one. Thomas and Josephine's children, nearly grown, assisted their cousins. Young James, ready to take his place as a teacher, demonstrated both his father's practical sense and his Uncle Nathan's eye for beauty. The others, Anne, David, and Michael, charted their courses to blend their ancestral customs, two studying architecture in Boston, another apprenticing with a cabinetry company that valued handcrafted goods. Each Sunday, Reverend Pembroke went on leading the church congregation, his hair gone fully white. In his sermons, he regularly drew lessons from the Whitmore brothers' expertise. Their school, he would say, showed how God's truth flowed, proving wisdom spoke loudest through changing times. Evergreen Hollow's library, paneled in oak that Nathan and Thomas completed, housed their father's journals and technical manuals. Helen often sat sketching designs, while young Nathan engaged in improving classic tools for updated efficiency. Collectively, they carried forward their father's and uncle's lasting legacy. Mrs. Kelly, who became the school's housekeeper, habitually told students about the chair that helped her heal during that long-ago winter. Her son, Peter, having apprenticed under both brothers, led beginning courses in wood selection, demonstrating how to read the narrative in grain patterns, as Nathan once illustrated. Even as the Depression dimmed Beacon Hill's luster, Mrs. Bradford continued her visits, her wardrobe simpler, her dignity intact. She took particular pride in displaying the two cradles that marked their journey, her grandmother's piece, restored to its original grace by Nathan, and the Henderson cradle that had proved craftsmanship's worth. Governor Bradford held his seat through 3 terms, his steady leadership earning the trust of both Beacon Hill and the common voter, even as the nation's fortunes shifted. Clara's snow angel lived on in surprising forms. Each spring, wild flowers bloomed in an angelic pattern. Helen tucked wings into every piece she carved, while young Nathan strengthened his chair designs with curves that suggested flight. The Whitmore trademark, customers called these touches, unaware they were born of a winter night's testament. The factory Edward built beside the railway tracks told its own story of transformation. In one area, machines stamped out progress, while in another, craft workers' tools kept older rhythms. He had discovered, as Margaret hoped, that progress needn't erase ancient truths. In the Whitmore workshop that had witnessed their hardest season, Nathan's calloused fingers steadied Helen's hand as she drew wings from maple. Her first real commission, a hope chest for the Murphy girl, gathered meaning beneath their shared touch. The original Henderson cradle created a legacy. Families throughout Evergreen Hollow sought pieces that married Helen's gifted style with young Nathan's solid construction. Even when money grew tight, people put aside coins week by week, understanding that true craft outlived its makers. Clara, her auburn hair now threaded with silver, kept Nathan's letters in a box carved with wing patterns. During Sunday services, with the twins nestled between them in the church pew, her mind would drift to that winter vigil when she'd molded hope from drifting snow. What had seemed as fleeting as frost had hardened into truth. A family restored, artistry preserved, a legacy renewed. Nathan's voice rang as strong in hymns as it did when calling measurements in his workshop. While Great is Thy Faithfulness resonated through the chapel, Helen often played the upright piano, her fingers finding notes as naturally as she found angels in wood. Every Wednesday night, the school hosted community suppers in the main workroom. While children played among the wood shavings, their parents gathered around tables built by Nathan and Thomas. Reverend Pembroke blessed each meal with special thanks for a fellowship that valued both daily bread and lasting beauty. The piano from Nathan's old store, rescued and restored, provided music for these gatherings, and Helen led folk songs, Shady Grove, or Banks of the Ohio through the weekly evenings. Thomas and Josephine's home overflowed with grandchildren's laughter. When James and his wife, Mary, welcomed their firstborn, a little girl, she slept in a cradle that spoke of both brothers' gifts. Michael and Anne's architectural firm bridged old and new, their innovative designs revealing how craft spoke in modern forms. David carried his father's lessons into the wider world, his furniture company proving that careful hands shaped tomorrow's treasures. Eleanor Clemens, who guided Clara through many winters, claimed her corner in the school, dispensing gentle wisdom, her guidance shaping more than wood. On a December evening marking the twins' 12th winter, the family gathered in Nathan's workshop. Wooden walls absorbed decades of stories, petitions, and promises, losses, and love. There, Clara remembered past winters, past prayers. Margaret came from Chicago to spend the week, her refined qualities mellowed by time and insight. She sat with Andrew near the window, their comfortable silence speaking of paths accepted and grace discovered. Edward stood in the corner opposite his wife, less the industrial baron, more the man who had learned to appreciate the quality that exceeded the capacity of machines. He studied Margaret as she played with Thomas's grandchildren, her face alight with pleasure. Outside, snow began to fall. The twins, Helen in her wool coat, cloche hat, and thick mittens, young Nathan in his heavy jacket, flat cap, and leather gloves, traded glances, then looked at their mother with hopeful eyes. Both wore the sturdy boots and wool scarves Clara had insisted on against the Massachusetts cold. "May we?" Helen asked. Clara nodded, tucking her scarf closer. Her family moved to the garden where her original snow angel was located. Margaret, in her city furs, preferred to watch, and Edward and Andrew agreed. One by one, Clara, Nathan, and their children lay back in the fresh snow. Together they swept their arms in familiar arcs, creating a host of angels as if heaven itself had touched the earth. As dusk deepened, the children's laughter floated through the crisp winter air, joyful and pure. Eternal as faith itself, love and mastery, style and second chances, and most of all, the power of believing in what was invisible yet always present, guiding hearts through trials, rekindling hope, and illuminating the path to redemption. In their bedroom, later that evening, Clara felt Nathan's familiar warmth as they stood at the window, watching snow erase the day's angels. His presence behind her spoke of years of shared moments, battles won, and faith rewarded. When his arms encircled her waist, she leaned back against his chest, feeling his heart beat steady and true. "God writes straight with crooked lines," he murmured against her hair. "Some prayers need hands to make them visible." "And some answers reveal themselves when the heart is ready to receive them," she whispered, covering his hands with her own. Their fingers intertwined, bearing the marks of their different works. His from chisel and plane, hers from garden and hearth, yet fitting together as perfectly as they had since their first days of marriage. Beyond, the school's lamps burned where a student worked late, learning the patience of true artistry. In the attic, 2 cradles waited for the next generation, one carved with wings, one built for strength, both telling the story of a family's journey from broken to blessed. Tomorrow, Helen would begin her music box commission, while young Nathan refined the joint techniques that honored both brothers' gifts. The school would fill with students learning to blend innovation and tradition. While Margaret and Andrew kept watch over the ledgers, Edward directed his factory profits to continue to fund scholarships, finally realizing that wealth was measured by the lives he transformed. Though tonight, in this quiet moment, Clara remembered her prayer pressed in snow and how God had answered beyond measure, a restoration that surpassed her dreams, as abundant as angels' wings in the sky's vastness. As winter fades, so too does the past, leaving only the promise of what lies ahead. Eternal as faith, enduring as love. The end.